This session is Learning to Love Yourself, presented by Mr. Christian Salas, Associate Professor of Social Work, VP of the Far West Texas Tache Chapter, and the host of Keeping It Social on EPCC TV. This session will be recorded so that you may come back to it later if you need, and so others who may have missed out on today's events will be able to come back and watch it. Thank you for joining us today. So now, at this time, we ask that you please mute your mics for the best sound experience. Otherwise, that feedback could interfere with the information we'll be sharing today. So without further ado, I'm happy to present one of my favorite presenters, Mr. Christian Salas.
Man, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday. Hope you are indoors or tied down to something, because it's El Paso weather, right? Nice and windy this morning, or this, and it just kicked up. I was walking over from the B building here at Valle Verde back to A, and man, that's not how it was when I first got to class. But hope everybody's doing well. Hope you guys are safe and sound, and not having to deal with any air stuff that might be going around. But again, thank you, Patricia, for that introduction. Welcome again. My name is Chris Salas. I'm Associate Professor of Social Work here at Valle Verde and for EPCC. And today we're going to talk about something that apparently we haven't talked about in a while, or talked, period. And I want to preface this by saying this isn't about arrogance, right? Whenever people talk about loving oneself, and we might get a little iffy, like, oh, what's that? Or I don't really want to talk about that. Not my jam, not my thing. But we got to take care of ourselves, right? We only get one us, right? And so does everybody else. So it's not about being arrogant of like, oh, me, and walking around with our nose up to everything else. It's just being comfortable with who we are, being accepting of what we got in front of us. And as they say, when they give you lemons, make lemonade. That sort of problem solving, kind of can do, optimistic, kind of spring in your step type of thing, even though sometimes that's not the easiest things to do. So as always, I do want to give credit where the credit is due. And so first and foremost, I do want to give a quick shout out to my fellow members of the EPCC Mental Health Committee. I've had the pleasure of being the chair for that committee in the past, and have been a member since basically since I started here at EPCC, now since 2019, and time flies when we're having fun. And I obviously couldn't be here without the awesome staff there at Virtual Events and the Office of Student Success. So again, thank you to both the Mental Health Committee and Tejano Virtual Events for continuing to deal with me, putting up with me. If you've done any of these with me before, if you have me for class, anything of that nature, you know, I start off with, I call them my spoiler alerts, because, well, I let you know what we're going to be talking about from the get-go, right? And so for some people are like, wow, this is really not my jam, but it is. I bet you it is, and I'll make it interesting. I'll keep you on your toes. So first and foremost, we'll talk about conceptualizing the topic, right? So we all are on the same page. Give a couple of definitions here and there. Talk about managing expectations. Sometimes what really burdens us and kind of boggles us down is this gap between reality and expectations, right? Who are we? Who we ought to be? Where we ought to be? And that sometimes really messes with us. Next, we'll talk about rewriting that narrative, rewriting what we think about ourselves, rewriting the expectations. And then we got to throw in those two little letters, right? I'm not Will Smith, but we'll definitely talk about AI, how that has kind of thrown a new nuance, has thrown a new wrench into the mix. We'll leave with talking about how to love ourselves, right? And a little self-compassion can go a long way. All right, so let's start off with some definitions again, so we're all on the same page in regards to what the heck we are talking about. So first and foremost, bear with me as I read to you for a second, but self-esteem is a subjective evaluation of your own competence, skills, and success. It is often fluid, fluctuating between based on achievements, failures, and feedback, right? That's how we think about ourselves. Our self-worth is the internal stable sense of being valuable, worthy, and deserving of respect, love, independence, or external circumstances. And our self-image, how we see ourselves, is the mental picture of ourselves, including personally physical appearance and our roles. It is often influenced by the external opinions and social compassion of comparisons of others. Now, this is just so that we all are on the same page as far as what it is, but really what we want to focus on is on us, our expectations, what we are looking at, what we might have this mentality of where others might want us to be, what others might want us to be. And sometimes that conflicts between us and them. So we can't really have that conversation without starting off first with, who are you, right? So who are you? I'll put that up on the chat for you guys. As far as who are you? And obviously you can tell me like, oh, my name's so-and-so. I get it. But who are you, right? What makes you you? What makes this person? So I can see here, so like Natalie, Roberto, Stephanie, Tony, Jaciel, Kiara. Who are you guys, right? And I'm just interested to see what you guys put. There is no right or wrong answer. You don't have to write an essay. This isn't an entrance exam, right? But who is it that we are? Give you a couple of seconds to get up there. Again, I understand we all have different speeds of typing, and also invite some of my TV ears, our staff, to tell me a little bit. Who are you? I know you. I know where you work. Mom, a student, an EPCC employee, a cat lover. Okay. Right. You see here why I'll say so. You know, I am a Hispanic male, even though I don't look like it. Bilingual. I'm a student mom, future nurse. There you go. You know, I'm a social worker. I'm a musician. I'm a father. I'm a son. I'm a avid Lego collector. If you ever near Valle Verde building A1102, I have quite the stuff in my office. I swear it looks like a 12-year-old works here. Oh, nice. Future nurse, mom, future teacher. All right. Sister, a tia, a friend, daughter, movie lover. Okay, Emma, what's your favorite movie? Just thought I'd randomly throw it out there. Not that I'll judge. Just kidding. Pride and Prejudice. Oh, okay. I actually really liked reading that book, believe it or not, back in high school. I was one of those weird people that actually liked reading the book. So mine's James Bond. I don't know if you can see it here. I mean, I'll kind of twist my camera a bit, but I have a humongous poster up there. I think Skyfall actually came out, or one of those came out on my birthday, or I think it was released on my birthday. But anyways, but that's who we are. Really lays the foundation to understand what some of our stressors into loving us really are, right? Sister, mother, book lover, future accountant. Oh, all right. Antoinette, yeah, I was actually, believe it or not, I was actually a future civil engineer when I first started at UTEP. Did civil engineering for quite a while, and it was not for me. Not that I didn't, it's not my type of environment. I almost graduated with a degree in civil engineering. Then I went into music, got my first degree as a music educator, tuba player, heavy metal. And that became more of a hobby. Ended up as a social work, not ended up, actually took social work, and that was my jam. Love what I do, love where I do it at. But again, all these things you guys are mentioning, right? Who you are, the things that make you you, can sometimes potentially put us in odds with certain things, right? Some of the expectations that we have, some of the expectations we might have internally and externally. And so let's look at that. So I ask you, do you feel pressure to succeed? Quick yes or no. Do you feel pressure to succeed? And does that come from yourself? Does it come from family? Does it come from somewhere else? Culture? Even spiritual, religious, faculty, teachers? How about it? Do you feel pressured to succeed? Yeah, self-pressure, so internal, right? Comes from us. Yeah, sometimes it's both, right? Sometimes the pressure comes from multiple directions. We have some internal pressure. Maybe sometimes we call that as self-driven, right? Got to make the money for the babies. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. And so sometimes that pressure per se can be masked as expectations. Sometimes that might be masked as motivation even, right? Oh, I was like, wow, that's a long entry. No. So we got to call it what it is, right? They're expectations. And so one of my favorite images is this of reality and expectations. Not necessarily what I want to and but it's really about the potential gap that might exist between what really is and where we really are and the expectation. For example, I would, and I bet anybody would love to be a millionaire, a billionaire, right? But I'm in education. It's unless I create something, unless I have this ginormous company, I win the lottery, expectations and reality is pretty far. Could it happen? Yeah, I mean, it's doable, but the expectation, right, compared to the reality of it, the gap is pretty far. So it's definitely going to take, I'm going to crash really hard into reality if I keep on thinking I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to be a millionaire, I'm going to be a millionaire. Now, some people will say, well, it brings good vibes, and if you buy the lottery tickets, and if you play the lottery, if you do this, if you do investments, definitely that helps to shrink that gap. Most definitely, right there with you if that's what you're saying. But at the same time, if that's what I'm concentrating on, again, that gap there starts to weigh heavily on us. And if we have that expectation way out there, right, we might start thinking negatively about ourselves. I'm not doing what I said I was going to do. I'm letting people down. I'm not doing what this person wants me to do, right? That expectation could be anything like, at least for internal expectations, that could be your grades, right? I wanted to get all A's. I expect to have a 4.0. I will have perfect attendance. I will not be late, right? Start a family, need a better job. All these are expectations that we might put on ourselves. I want a promotion. I want this degree. I don't want just an associate's. I don't want a bachelor's. I don't want a master's. I want a doctorate. I want to make a 6-figure salary. I want to live in a 2-story. I want to move out of El Paso. Those are internal expectations. External expectations are, well, external, outside of us. Things like, well, you're the first one in your family. Don't mess it up. Don't let us down. Right? So this is maybe not your expectation. Maybe you might have that, like, wow, I'm carrying the flag for the family. I'm the first one to go to college. I'm the first one. I'm not, your family might not be telling you anything. They might be like, yeah, you got this. And you're like, no, I got to make sure that I do the best because I'm the first one, and I got little brothers and sisters following behind me, or I got my cousins, I got my tia, my tío, my grandma, this. And so then that pressure, those expectations are put on ourselves. Sometimes that can be external as well. You should be further alive in life by now. Because I took a rather scenic route to social work, I started late in my life, in my career, right? Just celebrated a birthday last week. I'm 42. I've no shame in saying that. Age like wine, right? And so after high school, did engineering. And then after engineering, did music. Ding, still wasn't my jam. I didn't get my bachelor's in social work until 2014. 12 years after graduating high school. So I was at 30? No. Yeah. I was like, carry the 2 minus 1. So I was 30 when I got my professional degree per se. 2 years later, 2014, got my master's. Right? Started practicing as a clinician, therapist, got my license in Texas, New Mexico, and got the job here at EPCC, working towards my clinical licensure. So compared to some of the other individuals, well, thank you. Compared to other individuals that were 18, came out of college at 22, got their master's at 24, I was technically 10 years behind them, right? But what we need to understand is that we're all on the same line, just different dots on the line. There's nothing that says, I'll put this, when I was going up for tenure and I was doing my first year evaluation, right? Going to my dean's office, and she's going through my paperwork and she's like, you got 5 years to do all this, right? And I'm like, yes, ma'am. She's like, you can slow down. And she told me, it's like, I didn't get my doctor's till later on. And that really helped me comfort because it kind of put those expectations into a better perspective, at least for me. Not that I did it, but I guess coming into a new field, coming into a new place, it's like, oh my God, this person has this person, I have to do that, right? And that's when we start comparing each other. We start looking at where other people are. And that comparing ourselves to others, guess what? Those are putting expectations on ourselves. But at the same time, we don't know what they've gone through. And guess what? They too don't know what we've been through. They don't know that our decisions that we made. Right? I chose to stay here in El Paso after graduating high school because I came from a single mother, and my mom had to take care of my grandmother, who was elderly at the time, and my little sister was Down syndrome. So if I would have left to college, I'd put all that on my mom. I was like, yeah, I'm not about to do that, man. So I'm going to stay here, help out, go get my degree, do a lot of stuff. I had offers to go to USC, to Texas, to Purdue, all these other big name schools. And I probably would have gotten my degree in civil engineering, right? Engineering of some sort. But again, our decisions are based on our life needs. Where are we? What do we need? And so some of those were my expectations. Do I do this or do I do that? The decision making that goes into that, right? So that to me was kind of like the cultural expectations. I'm not going to leave my family behind and go do my stuff and be like, hey, deuces, you figure it out. And I feel that that's sometimes a lot of our students, heck, a lot of my students, right? That they come back to go into social work, to go into just academia, to get a degree, to get an associate's, to get a certificate, because they never had a chance to before. Or they got to a point in their career where like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do this something else. I want to do something for myself. I went to do this because I needed to provide for my family. So now I'm doing this. So it is extremely important that we realize that that we are all maybe on the same line, right? Whether it's life, whether it's our career, we're in different points. And that's perfectly okay. There is nothing that says by 22, you have to have a bachelor's. By 24, you have to have a master's. By da 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 da, you have to. There's not. How boring would that be that we all had to do the exact same thing by a certain period of time? Don't get me wrong, that's education, right? You got to go through first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth. That's your first 18 years of life. Anyways, but I think that's what makes us interesting, that we all have different stories to tell about ourselves, that we all are unique, right? That's what makes us awesome. So, with that said, we can rewrite that. We can rewrite that narrative. Just like I said, look, that image we have of ourselves can come from those past experiences, what we've done in the past, right? And sometimes that could be good or bad. Well, I was a really good student in high school. Why am I having so much trouble now at the college or at the university or at this or at that? I was really good, but now I'm not. Or, man, I was really bad and now it's really easy. Or whatever the case might be. We learn from our experiences, right? Even the family messaging, how's it put? Again, I'm 42 years old, married, 2 kids, right? I call myself the dumb one in the family, right? My wife is an administrator. She's oversees basically the entire county of El Paso. She has a doctorate. And I'm like, I'm just the eye candy. Not really. I definitely married up. I will put that on, and I'm glad that this is being recorded, because I could be like, look, I told you. But so sometimes I go back to this, the family messaging. So as much as I love my mom, as much as I love our family, we are very kind of cutthroat in that, right? Like we kind of keep things down to earth. There's times where my mom will gladly remind me that I'm still her son, right? And so sometimes our family, in a rather loving, not so loving way, will put things in certain ways, right? The message that other people might not understand, and be like, wow, that's really rude, or man, you guys really like, no, that's our love language. Hate is our love language, or bashing each other is our love language, right? My mom still smacks me in the back of the head sometimes. My wife and my oldest son see it, and they're like, oh my God. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Right? Even the social comparison, sorry. Think of things I just mentioned. We compare ourselves to everyone. Even think of your classes. Think of your job. Think of your family. Everybody's different age. Everybody has a different background, education, financial status, kids, no kids, married, not married, single, in a relationship, starting their education, coming back for education, seeking multiple degrees, going to transfer, going to get a certificate. So we can compare experiences, right? Hey, how was this class for you? Oh man, this class was horrible. Or hey, this class was great. Hey, how was your experience at EPCC? How was your experience at UTEP? How was your experience here? How was your experience? Definitely, we can share that. We can share our experiences. But then when we start comparing ourselves to each other, how did you do on the test? Why did you get that grade and I got this grade? Then we start putting those, again, the comparison becomes the expectations. Those expectations can become the burden, which can become potentially our own view of ourselves, the value of ourselves, the value that we put on ourselves, right? And sometimes they might be skewed. It might be unwarranted. Understand that your GPA does not make you. I'm sure you've heard of this before. What do you call a doctor with a C average? A doctor. Yep. You don't walk around with as a doctor with like, well, I graduated from this college with a C. I graduated. No, a doctor is a doctor. Just like your faculty. We're, yeah, we have ranks, right? We have assistant professor, we have associate professors, we got full professors. Yeah, right. You have people with different ranks. That doesn't make some people better than others, right? And so again, you are independent from your GPA. You got a bad grade in this one thing. Does that make you a bad father? Does that make you a bad sister? Does that make you a bad husband, wife? No, it's just one thing. There's an opportunity to bring it up. We're independent from our income. How much you make doesn't make you a better or worse person. In my path, I was an investigator for probate court, and I traveled the county of El Paso, parts that I hadn't even known before. And I've gone into homes that I didn't want to walk in because of how grand and how white marble, white everything, where you're like, I don't want to touch anything because I'm going to dirty something, and I'm like, walking, tiptoeing in. And I've walked into homes where they still have dirt floors. And nothing against anybody, but I would gladly go back to the house with the dirt floor because they were the most humble, most welcoming people I've ever met. And the house that I mentioned previously with the white marble, white everything, were the most detached, flat-affect individuals. And again, I'm using just two completely random examples, but both are very real. I'm not making those up. Those are two very real examples that I witnessed. So your income, your status does not make you who you are. It can add to who you are, but just because you live in this white marble house compared to this white house, that doesn't make you better or worse than the other individuals. And then your relationship status. How many times have you heard like, oh, pobrecito, you still haven't found anybody. Ah, pobrecita, oh my God. Right? Statistics have shown that people have chosen to marry later in life nowadays. People have chosen to have kids later on in life these days. Did you know that women in college and women that have graduated with college degrees outnumber that of men as of recently? So we are in a time period in our lives where educated women are outnumbering educated men. And educated women of color are outnumbering even the women of basically minority women, outnumbering the rest of educated women graduating with degrees. So girl power, baby. That's what's up. I am huge on quotes, right? Again, walk into my office, quote right here. I got a quote down here, another one right there, another one right up here. Boom. There's like quotes galore in my office now that I think about it. One of my favorites is, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It is a courage to continue that counts. In other words, when you succeed, it's not the end. Keep going. And just because you failed, that doesn't mean that's the end either, right? Well, another of my favorite quotes is FAIL, F-A-I-L, is an acronym for first attempt in learning. And that's the important thing, that we learn from the things that don't necessarily go well, right? So ask yourself this: if things don't go well, or heck, even if things do go well, what did this experience teach me? And what skill did you gain? Because believe me, from even when things go well, you can go like, I know what I did here, and man, I could do this way easier. If things fail, things don't go well, like I know exactly where things went wrong. Won't do that again either. Right? We learn from our experiences. And these could be in our attempt to reach those expectations, to reach those goals that we have for ourselves. You know that saying that keep on doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same or a different outcome is a definition of insanity. Well, let's be sane people, right? Learn from our mistakes. Learn from the things that work and the things that don't for both. If it worked, guess what? If it worked here, I bet you I can probably do that over here, and it probably works over here too, right? Attainable knowledge, transferable knowledge. I learned it here, so let's try it over here. People just ask me like, well, you did engineering, you did music, and then you did social work, so how the heck? I'm like, yeah, I didn't throw away all that stuff that I learned in engineering and in music just because like, oh, I'm a social worker now. Right? Engineers, very precise. They need things to be exact. Right? You're off by an inch, a building comes down, a bridge doesn't meet. So guess what? My notations, when I write my reports, when I write things, everything's very precise. At this time, on this day, this happened, this happened, this happened. Here's the this, here's the that, boom, 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 boom. As a musician, conducting the orchestra, the symphony, the band, whatever, boom. And if I got to tell someone something, guess what? I conducted the marching band at UTEP, 300 people. And if I needed this one person to do something, and I needed this other person and this other person, that's 300 different attitudes, perceptions, beliefs, and everything else you want to throw in there. So what did I learn? How to talk 300 different ways. Get my point across 300 different ways. Well, how does that apply? Well, my 8 o'clock is not the same as my 9 o'clock, my 10 o'clock, my 11 o'clock, my group, my this, my that. My students, I tell them, I teach my classes differently based on you all. Some classes is like pulling teeth, right? I come out sweating because I'm like, all right, guys, and we're going to do this. Other classes, I'm like holding on because they have such great communication. I'm like, hey, guys, hold on. All right, let's go back to this. Oh, yeah, that's a great question. Boom. So we have different skills for everything. But from everything, we gain something valuable, right? And again, no one knows that better than you. You are the ones that know what you have learned. You know what skills you have gained. You don't walk around with like a Letterman jacket of your life of all the skills you've attained so that other people can see, go like, wow, man, this person knows this person. No one knows you like you know you, right? On the same vein, you're not going to know someone else like they know themselves. So why compare ourselves to them if we don't know who they are and they don't know who we are? All right, here comes the fun stuff. Ready? Last couple of years, we've seen the increase of the use of AI, mostly for good reasons, right? Can it help improve work? Most definitely. Can it help improve and do things much quicker than we probably have? You better believe it has. But there are definitely some aspects of it that people are still not getting used to or using it as a maladaptive behavior. In other words, using it kind of, with great power comes with great responsibility. Well, sometimes it's being used irresponsibly. So some people tend to use it because it's 24/7 access, right? Doesn't matter what time, doesn't matter what day. There's no judgment, right? You can put in there like, hey, I don't want you to judge, I just want to answer this. Spits out an answer. They're free, they're anonymous, they don't track who you are. And sometimes it's easier than talking to someone, because sometimes whoever you talk to, you might hear what you don't want to hear. You might not be ready for that. And so we have seen, unfortunately, some instances where this has really taken on a different meaning when it comes to people's self-worth, people's self-image, and people's self-esteem. That because of the reasons I just mentioned above, people revert to or get to or utilize artificial intelligence to ask about themselves, to ask about even how they should handle situations. And unfortunately, sometimes that doesn't go well, right? And so They are not a therapist. They're not guided by ethics. They're not guided. There's no guide, period. They cannot assess crisis occurrence accurately, sorry. Where if I'm looking at somebody, well, a text is a text. There's no emotion. There's nothing to it. Well, if I'm talking to someone, even if I'm just on the phone, I can tell from their inflection in their speech, right? I can listen to see if there's a sniffle in there somewhere, if their voice is cracking. If I'm looking at them, what's their posture like? Are they closed off? Do they look mad? Are their eyes puffy? Do they look like they've been crying? Could they potentially look under the influence? There's things that we as humans, we can assess for that you typing something on any type of device, it's just words. May provide generic advice, things that, again, AI pulls information and provides an answer based on what it has access to, not what it is looking at. And it cannot replace real human connection. So what not to use it for? If someone is feeling like they've hit the end, like there's nothing else they can do. Suicidal thoughts, they want to harm themselves, they want to harm someone else, they want to end it all. And they can say like, hey, this person, they wants to do this and this and this with this person. Do you think this person can or should complete suicide? There's I believe a couple of cases right now that are being tried where these these big media companies are being sued because people have completed suicide or harmed themselves as a result of what answer was generated by AI after they prompted some of these questions that I just mentioned. Someone who's going through a depressive or anxious mood or episode, or even major life decisions, right? Hey, I got this much money, I got this. Well, what should I invest it in? Where should I do this? What should I do that? Doesn't take risk into accountability. Doesn't take into what does your income stream look like? Is this all of your income? Or just say, hey, I have this much free money. So definitely it's being utilized for things that there's no parameters really set around. So other things that can be taken into consideration are talking to a counselor, for example. Here at EPCC, I'm sure and I hope that everyone has heard of EPCC Cares. EPCC Cares is our in-house mental health services that provides up to 8 or 10 therapy sessions to not just you all as students, but also your cohabitants. In other words, if you have someone in your family, your immediate family lives with you, that would like to speak to someone, they can speak to someone at EPCC Cares. You can schedule an appointment. They can do virtual appointments. We have now therapists at each of our, thank you. Yep. Thank you, Patricia, for putting that up there for me. But you have providers at each of our 5 campuses. The only one that does not have a mental health provider currently is the ASC, but there are providers in each of our other 5 campuses. Trusted faculty and staff. I don't know if it's just because I teach social work, but I'm sure there's times when you see your faculty more than you see your family. I get it because some of my students have me for 4 classes. Pobrecitos, they've earned their ticket to heaven and any rights that come with it because, I wouldn't like to deal with me for 4 classes. Just kidding. But there might be someone that you have good rapport with. And we are definitely working on ensuring that our staff, our faculty are aware of all the resources within EPCC that they can refer you to or can refer anybody to, not just you all, right? Or that you all as students have that information if you happen to have a friend or someone else that you might run into in some sort of emergency or crisis that you can help refer to. Another thing that's going to be coming out, and this is like top secret information, not really, but Talk Campus is something that is actually going to roll out on Monday. That is the 23rd, I believe. Yeah. February 23rd. It's going to be the big reveal. So you heard it from me first. I don't know if I should have, but 23rd is going to be the big rollout of Talk Campus. It's a chat-based app where, oh, there you go. Okay, so not so, I guess I kind of preempted to some extent. Man, but this you're on top of this, man. You got it. But yep, so that's going to roll out officially on Monday. And you can, if you have any issues that you want to talk to somebody, this will go directly to peer support advisors, and you'll be talking to them, chatting on there. If, as they're talking to you, they feel that there might be need to escalate it, they have licensed clinicians there that they will transfer this call or this chat to. And if needed, that the company will then inform the campus of like, hey, we have a student who's at the so-and-so campus who's talking to one of our providers who would probably really benefit from services right here, right now. And they will either direct us to you or you to us. And by us, I mean the campus and things like EPCC Cares, our bid team, our CERT team. Just know that we at the college are very committed to the mental health and safety of not just our students, but our staff as well. Another one is 988, right? So 988 is something you can even text. And I can put this one up later on. I don't know if you guys can see it, but this is the National Suicide and Prevention Hotline. You can literally from your phone text 988. Just text like hi, hello, whatever, and you'll be prompted to like, hey, you've reached the National Suicide and Prevention Hotline. You'll answer a couple of questions, and then you'll be directed to someone online again through text. You can also call 988 and get to somebody. Now, if you call from a 915 number, it will actually direct you to a operator here in El Paso. Emergence Health Network, our mental health providers, have 10 local operators for the 988 hotline. So you would end up speaking to someone here locally. All right, so how is it that we can love ourselves, right? So one of the things is really setting boundaries. Remember, you are the one that dictates how close someone can get, who can tell you what, right? From words to touches to closeness, we set those boundaries for ourselves, right? And sometimes, unfortunately, because we might not have boundaries or because we might have loose boundaries, what someone says, what someone does might hit us harder than something else, right? Especially if it's family, because you wouldn't expect that from family. But again, having those boundaries, understanding that type of relationship, allowing imperfections. I have to this date meet anybody who is perfect, right? I'm sure as heck not perfect. No one is perfect. We all make mistakes. I, for one, should have had this presentation into my lovely people at Tejano Virtual Events by earlier this week. I, however, forgot I had a 2-day training that was back-to-back 8 hours each day, and so I didn't get this to them until this afternoon or this morning. Could I have done it differently? Most definitely, but because they are awesome people, ta-da, it's up here for you all. We all make mistakes, but again, we learn from our mistakes, plan better, anticipate things, right? And even then, we're not going to catch everything. I feel that the hardest thing that we as humans can do is ask for help. I don't know if it's because of pride. I don't know because it's culture. It's hard, right? Maybe it's just ingrained in us that we don't ask for help. We got this. But there's nothing wrong with asking for help with anything, right? Someone might know how to do something better, how to do something faster, how to do something more efficiently. Someone has done it before we have, so why not ask them how to make our lives a little bit easier? How did you transfer to UTEP? How did you go about getting your degree here? Hey, I have this project. How did you go about understanding this? How did you Someone somewhere has done this already. So I rack our brain when we can get some guidance. I'm not saying have them do it for you, but lay a little foundation for us, right? Speaking kind to ourselves is something that I feel is very cliche, but at the same time, very important. Let me rephrase this. Our mind is a very powerful thing, right? Another quote that I have right up here from Henry Ford. If you think you can do a thing, or you think you can't do a thing, you're correct. You're right. So whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. But as Yoda said, do or do not. There is no try. Right? So do it or don't. Don't be like, I'll try it out. Maybe. Excuse me. But our mind is extremely powerful. And create that boundary by ourselves of I'm never going to be that good. I'm never going to be as good as so-and-so. Right? I gripe at my oldest because they always compare him to his cousin. Graduated valedictorians, going to Harvard, graduating from Harvard, like, oh, you should be like, and I'm like, no, be you, man. Don't be your cousin, be the first you. If you want to go be a doctor, go be the first you doctor, right? If you want to go be an engineer, go be the first you engineer. Don't go be someone else. Let them be them. You be you. Right? But again, that's easier said than done. Right? We got culture, we got family, we got our own. There's a lot of things that sometimes get in our way. Sometimes it's even ourselves. This one's a cute way of saying what I said earlier about being in same line, different points, right? Comparing your chapter 2 to someone's chapter 10. Some people are like, oh my God, I'll never get to be like you, and you've done so much. I'm like, you're just getting started. Don't compare yourself to me. Like, I'm already over here. You still got, it's not that you got to catch up to me. It's like, you're on your path. You go do you, right? We can't compare each other to right now because you're just starting and I'm already, 10 years in, 12 years in, 16 years in, whatever. In 16 years, you might, by running this place, who knows? But we can compare each other when we're at different chapters, different points on the line. Understand and really validate your own timeline. Right? You should have had kids already. According to who? Right? Don't get me wrong, I would have loved my grandmother to be alive to see my baby boy, to see me with a family, everything like that. It just wasn't meant to be. Do I regret it? No. I mean, it sucks sometimes when you think about it, like, oh man, she would have loved my baby boy. Oh, she would have loved my wife. But it's our timeline, right? We're bound to do what we got to do with what we got. It's not up to us. And lastly, again, going on that about being kind to ourselves, being kind to what we tell ourselves, right? Acknowledge the struggle. Understand that if it'd be easy, everybody'd be doing it, right? Remind yourself that struggle is human. Actually, my personal trainer, my wife and our personal trainer is like, are you guys sore? Does it hurt? We're like, oh yeah, man, after the squats and everything, like, oh, my knees. I was like, good, that means you're alive. Pain is a sign that you're alive. And I'm like, I never heard it that way. Makes perfect sense. Don't like it, but it makes sense. I'm like, cool, right? And respond with kindness. Look, we will be the ones that talk to ourselves the most. Whether you're introvert, extrovert, whatever, Bert, we are our own worst critic, but we can also be our biggest cheerleader. And so why not be kind to ourselves, right? Ease off. We already got it hard by other places. I'm not saying like take it easy and just do nothing. Kind yourself. When you get down, be like, damn, that one sucked. What did I learn? This is what I learned. All right. Now I know. Let's get back up. Let's get back on that horse. We got this. And as I started off by saying, we all have different, who are we? We are who we are. Our history makes us, our experiences makes who we are, right? Our family makes us who we are. There's a saying that two kids that grow up in the same family have different lives, have different parents, have different everything. It's true. Kids that are born 2, 3, 4, 5 years apart, they got different parents. The younger kid or the older kids, they had younger parents. At the same time, they had parents that were like, oh my God, I don't know what to do, and be very supportive and very fragile baby. The kid from 4, 5, 6, 7 years later, well, they get parents that are now 4, 5, 6, 7 years older, right? They're different economically. They're different here. They're different there. There's an older brother. There might be a different house. They might have a pet. So we are all different. We are not carbon copies of each other. We're not robots that come programmed. That would be boring. We would be boring. But it'd be easy because we wouldn't have to worry about anything because we'd be like, bloop, upload it. Boom, now I know how to do this. Or delete this file. Oh, I don't remember. I don't have any recollection of anything that was said. So don't treat yourself like a robot, right? Take your time, self-care, take some time off, deconnect, decompress. So with that, thank you for your time. Oh, this is the first time I think I'm like, I went by 1 minute. But as always, like I said, I am here and available for you all. Valle Verde A1102. Here's my info, csalas69 at epcc.edu. My number here at the office, 2469. Again, anything and everything. A little plug. I have, I call it the EPCC, the Cubole Day, which is something that I'm slowly rolling out to all faculty and staff, which is on Wednesdays, right? Our EPCC Spirit Day, right? Teal and Purple Day, right? Tejano Day, no? Huh? So a sense of belonging, a sense of, hey, we're one school, we're all Tejanos, Tejanas, right? So we all take care of each other. So why not just ask a quick, "Yuwale, how you doing?" And actually answer back. I'm doing great. Oh, thanks, sir. I'm not doing so. Hey, what can I help you with? Be there for each other. And that's something that I kind of started with the mental health committee, and I'm starting to roll out much more, big gala, big hoopla. But again, just ask each other every Wednesday, "Kiwale, how you doing?" I will most definitely send the info. But yeah, again, just check in with each other, guys. And again, thank you again. I'll be quiet now. I'll really shut my trap. And again, as always, thank you to my fellow colleagues and the staff at Tejano Virtual Events for this opportunity. And thank you all for delighting me in being here today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Salas, for the wonderful presentation. As always, we loved it so much. For now, if anyone has any questions for our presenter, please feel free to either use your mic or you can use the chat box. And we would like to thank everyone for being a wonderful audience and for coming in today. Please remember that we record these sessions. So if you would like to review or share anything from this presentation, those recorded sessions can definitely help. We had shared the Tejano Passport link so that everyone may receive their points for coming in today. And before you all leave, I want to share the TVE sessions for next week. We'll be back next week with Happy Math Hour at 11 a.m., where Math 1332 will cover the Exam 2 review, and Math 2412 will cover Law of Sines and Cosines. Our 1 p.m. session next week will be on Opportunity High School with Chef Guerra. Thank you all for coming in today. We hope everyone has a restful and safe weekend. If you have any questions, feel free to use the chat box or your mic. And again, thank you so much, Mr. Salas. We hope to see you all again for Tejano Virtual Events.